Hey guys, what's going on? Hertz here with the first in a series of content creation tutorials. Today we're going to be taking a look at our toolkit. This video assumes you've already set up a private server and it includes important links in the description. You do not need to know how to code. Let me say that again, no coding knowledge necessary. As long as you can install a few programs and use a keyboard, you can make content for Asheron's call. First off, let's go ahead and take a look at a weenie. The basic building block we're going to be working with. By default, you'll find them in this folder: ACE, Server, Content, SQL, Weenies. The file names are formatted, as you can see, with a number in the front, which is the WCID or Weenie ID, which is a unique serial number, followed by the name of the object. And then SQL is the file format. And here we have a weenie in its natural state, viewed in a program called Notepad++. As you can see, this is a weenie for a Drudge Skulker. It contains all the properties that make a Drudge Skulker, and not, say, an Esper Urson. A lot going on here. I don't feel the need to remember it all or understand everything. Just sort of let it wash over you. As you can see, we have the unique WCID or Weenie ID number here, which is 7, because they made Drudge Skulkers pretty early in development. We have a series of categories that contain various properties. This is weenie property int, weenie property bool, weenie property float, etc. Usually you can get an idea of what things do just by looking at the name, things like armor mod versus slash, or visual awareness range. There's also a weenies property master sheet that I've linked in the description that has more details about just about everything. So this is a bit overwhelming at first, but we're going to take a look at the same weenie in a different program that makes it a bit easier to digest. So I started off by showing you what a weenie looked like in SQL, since there are times when you're going to want to edit it that way, but generally speaking, you'll be using this program, which is called WeenieFab. As you can see, it's divided those various properties into tabs: int, bool, float, and so on. Gives us little handy drop-down boxes with all of the possible property types. A lot here, as you can see. WeenieFab is going to take care of basically all the obnoxious formatting we would have to do if we were working on an SQL. It's very handy. So as you're working, you're generally going to be adapting new weenies from pre-existing ones, but since the Weenie ID, or WCID, has to be unique to each weenie to work, we're going to be changing the number just about every time we're working with a new weenie. So we can take this WCID here for our Drudge Skulker, make it something like 999999, and since the weenie name here also has to be unique to each weenie, we'll just add a 999999 in front. Now another thing we can do, I'll show you in the string tab right here. We have the name of the Drudge Skulker, and I've added some 9s to it as well. I can add a few more. Update. It's got a bunch of 9s now. If we go to Save As, WeenieFab will automatically update it. The new weenie ID and the new name of the weenie. It's very handy. We save As and take a look at it in SQL. You will see that the WCID has been changed all on down the line. It's very handy. So now what I'd like to do is take us through this Drudge Skulker tab by tab and just hit a few of the highlights. You can familiarize yourself with some of the properties, and so I can show you how easy it is to do basic changes to a weenie. So as you see here, we've got property 1, it's item type. In this case it's 16, which means creature. You have property 2, the value is 3, it's a creature type, 3 means drudge, and so on. Down here, on property 25, we see is level. We can go ahead and change that, make that a little more fitting, make it 999. We'll hit update. We can also add properties that are not on this list from the drop-down box up here. You can pick something, I don't know, something towards the end. Let's see. let's give him some overpower. We'll give him 99 overpower, which is 99%. In this case, we don't do update, we just do add. So there you go, 99 overpower. The next category is Boolean, or bool. These are true-false values rather than integers. Lots of important things here. For example, we have bool 13, which is ethereal. This is what determines whether a monster can pass through doors or players, or whether it'll bounce off them. You see I've set it to true. Down here, 19, we have attackable, which is whether a monster is attackable or not. And if we take that and we set that to false, and hit update, it will no longer be attackable. So I've brought us back in game to take a look at that drudge. Before we do, I wanted to introduce you to another important tool, which is the decal plugin Ace Content Creator. Let's see a little Ethereum core here. Click on that. So whatever was in that content folder that we were looking at earlier will load whenever you reboot the server. But if we want to make changes on the fly without rebooting the server, which we very often will as we're working, we can either use the in-game admin commands in the chat window, or something I think is quite a lot easier, this Ace Content Creator decal plugin. So nifty UI here. So you can see that there is a nice little drop-down menu for select SQL file. Our Drudge Skulker, the original one up here. Click on that. Scroll down and we see Drudge Skulker we changed. So whenever we are, as I said, working on the fly, making changes to weenies without rebooting the server, we're going to do something called import. We're going to do import SQL right here. You can see it'll say import Drudge Skulker converted to JSON format as well. When there are errors, which there sometimes will be, especially when you're learning, it'll very often give you the reason that it won't load it right here. That'll give you a clue as to what you did wrong and what you need to fix. So now that we have imported our Drudge Skulker, turn the camera around, make us all dizzy here for a second, and go ahead and create him. And there you see the little Drudge Skulker. If we inspect him, we'll see that as we might expect, the level has been changed to 999, and he has 99% overpower. Now if you remember, we did a couple of other things in the bool. We made it so that he's ethereal, so that when we walk against him, pass right through. And this means that he will pass right through us, pass through doors, and so on. You may also have noticed, when we click on him, the little target arrows are white. There's a white dot on the radar. That's because he is no longer attackable. We turn attackable off. Just a few little changes. If we see here, we'll try to attack him. It'll say you must select a valid combat target before attacking. Next, I'd like to take a look at some float values. As you can see, unlike int, these can be fractional. There's a lot of decimals here. Float is a good place to explain some monster basics. There'll be more on that in future videos, but we can take a look at just a few things right now. All these armor mods. These will multiply your base armor of your monster by this number for this specific damage type in the calculation. Here we see the visual awareness range, which is the range at which monsters will aggro players. We can go ahead and change that to something like 1. Down here, float 39, it's an important one. This default scale, this determines the size of the object. Put that something like 0.5. And we go ahead and import that drudge so that all those changes we made are updated, and create them again. We will see a few differences. Change the default scale, as you remember. He's itty bitty. Also, if we go attackable on and we walk around, his visual awareness range is so low that he doesn't see us. If we get right up close to him though, I do believe he will attack us. It's a visual awareness range of 1. On the string tab, most of what you'll be doing is changing the weenie name right here, but there are also some item description entries and some quest flagging stuff, mostly the name. Moving right along to the next tab, which is Data ID or DID, we will find one of the most important properties of a weenie, which which is right here. It's number 1. This is the setup. This is what your Weenie's going to look like. So if we go ahead and change this setup to instead of 445, 443, take a look at it in game, we will see that our Drudge Skulker now looks like a little palm tree. And as you can see, it's wiggling back and forth, sort of like a drudge would when it's standing there. That's because of the motion table, which was one of the other entries in data ID. Some interesting things you can do with motion table, but mostly it's going to be setups that we're changing to make Weenies look different. And we can look at sort of all the available setups in another fine program, which is called AC Viewer. And here it is. Extremely useful program. Go here and do the drop-down menu. Click on Setups. We can take a look at all the different setups. Some we don't even see in game anymore, like these old style banderlings. Can take a look at some of the things that banderlings will do. Their motions, twitches. When they attack, they'll ever stop doing his dance. Yep, there's his twitch. There's the attack high. Attack medium. Lots of things. Easy to get bogged down in this program because there's so much to look at, but also a whole lot of fun. Before we moved on from data ID, I just wanted to touch on another way to change the monster appearance, like some monsters. For some setups, there's something called a clothing base that we can use with this palette base, and over here in int, this palette template, change the way that it looks. As you'd expect, since it's clothing base, it's generally for clothing, but a lot of monsters, especially ones in early retail, have an awful lot of palette choices, many of which never appeared in games. You can get some interesting appearances going on. You can also see those clothing tables in AC Viewer. It's one of the better ways to find them. So these next 3 tabs are for creatures only, so you're not always going to be working with them, but they are pretty handy to have. We see here this attribute skill tab, the creature attributes down here, health, stamina, mana, different skills here with a drop down box. We can add ones if we don't have them on the list. One of the really fancy things about this is if we change an attribute here and it's used in a skill over here, it will recalculate. So if we see here melee defense specialized, it's at skill level 55. We take our quickness, we increase it to 1100 instead of 110. We hit update. It's changed it here. And look at this again. Skill level 302. The next tab is the body parts table. As you can see, it's got the head, chest, abdomen, and so on. These are not always the same with every monster, and generally speaking, you're not going to be doing a whole lot here, except for changing the armor level. This is sort of the base armor level of each part of the monster. And this is the damage that the monster will use if it's just using its fists or claws or hooves or whatever it uses to attack. Another interesting thing you can do here is change the damage type. It's got a nice little drop down menu. Change it to any one of these. Spellbook tab is, as you'd imagine, the way you give monsters spells. If you've ever wondered how monsters pick certain spells to cast, it's because they have them in their spellbook. Gives you the spell ID, which will be used for some emotes that we might be doing later on. You can enter a probability. Always starts with 2, 2.15. Obviously, the probability determines how likely it is to cast this spell. Create items is the next tab. Can do some interesting things here. Generally speaking, if there is a trophy drop from a monster, this is usually not the loot itself, but the trophies like Drudge Charms, Peppermint Sticks, Academy Stamps. It's determined here. Destination types are how you determine sort of where the object goes. 9 is something that they contain inside themselves and drop as loot. Another good one is 2, which is wield. That's how you see NPCs wearing clothes or holding weapons, how monsters sometimes wield weapons. Now this is the emote tab, and this is where the magic happens. This is where you get most of the complex behavior you see from monsters, NPCs, objects, and so on. A lot of valuable stuff here. Most of our series is going to focus on emotes, so we're not going to get too far into it right now. Working with emotes in SQL is really unpleasant. Fortunately, WeenieFab uses a text-based input for creating emotes. There's some special formatting you need to follow. It looks rather complicated here because these are heartbeat emotes. These are how, if you've ever watched Drudges or Banterlings or any number of other monsters, when they're just standing there, occasionally they'll dance or they'll spin around or look at their foot. That's what all these heartbeats are doing. We don't need to worry about those for right now. We can go ahead and use this button to clear the current emote script. Sure. So let's give our Drudge something a little simpler to show you some of the formatting. One of our emotes is death, means on death. You want the weenie to do this thing, or you want the monster to do this thing. If we hit enter, space over a little bit, use a dash, we will use another emote action, just say, put a colon, and have it, what we're going to say is ack, I am dead, exclamation point. So if we go ahead and hit save, and take a look at that in-game. So as always, we're going to need to go ahead and import our Drudge again, and create him. And as you can see, he is no longer a white dot on the radar, no longer has white arrows here. It's because I went ahead and changed him back to attackable so I can show you this death emote. Can go ahead and smite him. He says, ack, I'm dead. Pretty simple, but there you go. Gives you an idea of some really basic emotes. A lot of things you can do. A whole lot of complexity that you can build in, which we'll see as we move on in this series. Of the remaining tabs, you're not going to really do a whole lot in Instance ID or Book. There's not good book support with WeenieFab anyway. Generator is one of the most important things, but we're not going to be working at it in WeenieFab because it's not great WeenieFab support for generator tables either. That's one of the things we're going to be doing in SQL. So it was one of the reasons I wanted to show you the SQL files previously. We'll be talking about that in our next video. Positions are just basically how you tell a portal where to send somebody. So it's important. I'm not going to be doing a whole lot here though. So that's WeenieFab. Really wonderfully useful tool. Not sure how I ever did it before I started using WeenieFab, but I did for quite a while. It was not fun, really slow. You can do an awful lot of things really quickly with WeenieFab when you know what you're doing. Before I ended the video, I wanted to show you a few more of the useful things that Ace Content Creator can do. As we saw earlier, when we go through this drop-down bar, we click on something, it automatically puts it here in the WCID form. What we did before was create things. Create this reed shark, spin the camera around. You see we've created this adult reed shark. Something else we can do is create inventory. Since we can't pick up adult reed sharks because of some of the properties they have, that gives an error right here, but for many things, if you create inventory, it'll put something right into our backpack. Another really important thing is this create instance right here. So if we create an instance of something, it puts it right here. It says creating new land block instance at, and it has a whole bunch of gibberish, a whole lot of numbers. Basically this is this specific location. So the world itself is divided into lots and lots and lots of land blocks. Basically it's about a 200 by 200 area, useful for determining where we are in the world. When we create a land block instance of something, what we're doing is we're adding this permanently to land block file. So every time that land block loads or reloads, this thing will spawn. If we ever want to go ahead and remove an instance, we have to use this remove instance command right here. Removes the instance. If we just use this delete selected here, or we killed something, it would still come back when the land block refreshed. I'll show you how to do a land block refresh here. You can reload the land block. Everything sort of blinks out and then comes back. Something interesting we can do with instance objects, go ahead and make a rock instance. We can go over here to this nudge tab in Ace Creator, and we can move it. Move it up, move it down, move it north, move it south, west and east, and so on. This increment section here, as you imagine, is the amount that we're moving it by. You can also rotate objects, In Ace Creator, we can only rotate them in sort of the XY plane. There are text commands that we can use to rotate it further, which I'll show you in another video. And the very last thing that I wanted to talk about in this video were just a few of the many admin commands that you have at your disposal. I have included a link that includes a big long list of them. Most of them you're never going to use, but a handful of them you're going to use an awful lot. So the first one we're going to use is God. We're already a God, so we can hit ungod. Makes us into a normal character. So 275 again. We go God. We're 999 and have enormous stats and can run like the Flash. Another command is cloak on. Makes us invisible. We're also ethereal. We pass through any object that's not part of the DATs. So walls here are part of the DATs. We can't walk through those, but we can walk through doors. We're also invisible to all players and to other admin characters that don't have admin vision on. Admin vision on. We will be able to see things like this generator over here is normally hidden to players and to administrator characters without admin vision on. It is a bool property that makes them invisible. Go cloak off so we can see our character again. It's a little disconcerting sometimes not to be able to see your character. Another really important command is attackable on. That makes it so the monsters can attack us normally. As an administrator character, we can go attackable off. It means they won't. They'll just ignore us. Okay, this is actually the last thing I wanted to show you for this video. A couple more commands. Ace Content Creator can do a lot of things. One thing it doesn't do is this chat command. If we go import /SQL weenies all, we will see that it took everything in that weenies content folder and imported it all at once. It's very handy. We make a number of changes to a number of different weenies we're working on and don't want to go drop down through the list, importing each one at a time, or don't want to reboot our server. I will warn you, however, that if the folder has too many weenies in it, it can sort of lock up. So this is only really if you're doing something with a fairly small project. You can do quite a number more than you see here, but still has to be within reason. Another thing we can do is we can export SQL weenies. Let's do 137. This is a way to export things from the database. So there's a database with all the weenies in it. If you ever wondered how to get some weenies and look at some weenies, this is one way to do it. We went ahead and exported 137, which is a basket. So we can take a look at that in our folder if we wanted to. It would be the current end of retail basket weenie. So maybe not the most thrilling thing, but you can do that with any number of other weenies. See how they're put together, see how they're made. As long as we have the weenie number, we can get the weenie numbers at a couple of the resources I have linked below. So yeah. Alrighty, so now I'm done. I hope you found this video helpful. A lot of information to learn. It certainly seems overwhelming at first, I'm sure, but none of it's terribly complicated to learn. I know a lot of people have the misconception that creating content requires coding knowledge or coding skill. Doesn't. All you really need to do is be able to do some data entry and be able to learn a number of different properties, a number of different categories. And as I said, you have resources available that will provide you with answers when you don't know it off the top of your head, so you don't need to memorize everything even. A lot of things you can do. I'm really excited to share with you some fun emote stuff in particular that you can do in this series. So yeah, I hope it helped you maybe get a little more comfortable about diving right into weenies and doing some AC content creation. So thanks for watching, everybody.